this package. Thank you in particular to two terrific champions, Chairwoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, Chairman Frank Pallone of the Energy and Commerce Committee, as well as other chairs who were involved in this legislation. And I want to also acknowledge the leadership of the ranking member, Mr. Lucas. Mr. Lucas, it was a joy and inspiring to behold your very informative and impressive presentation in favor of this legislation.
Great news, everybody. Monthly benefit checks are finally going to be increased, and the Social Security Administration has announced that millions of Social Security recipients may receive an extra $1,900 in relief money. Now, older Americans and others receiving Social Security could get a significant bump in their annual COLA next year, with experts forecasting that the typical recipient could receive additional $1,900 in 2023 to keep up with inflation. And unfortunately, many seniors, which have struggled this year, as their 2022 bump, which was 5.9%, lagged the hottest inflation of 40 years. Now, consumer prices cooled in July as gas prices dropped, but inflation remains scorching hot, up to 8.5% from a year ago. And the Social Security Administration bases its annual COLA adjustment on inflation data from July, August, and September. Now, with the agency announcing its official hike this year, with data now available for one of those 3 months, seniors could see an average monthly increase of 9.6%, according to the Senior Citizens League. If inflation continues to ease, seniors could finally get a break in 2023 and close the benefits gap that many people are experiencing. Based on an average monthly benefit of around $1,656 in 2022, a 9.6% boost would amount to a monthly gain of about $159 and an annual gain of $2,000. Now, Mary Johnson, one of the analysts at the Senior Citizens League, has told CBS News a high COLA will be eagerly anticipated to address an ongoing shortfall in benefits that Social Security beneficiaries are experiencing in 2022 as inflation runs higher than their 5.9% COLA. Mary Johnson said she expects the Social Security Administration to announce the COLA following the release of September inflation data. The SSA bases its annual benefits adjustment on a slightly different index. It is called the CPIW, which is a basket of goods and services that are typically bought by workers, and the Labor Department reported that the CPIW increased 9.1% in July. To be sure, there are still 2 months of data yet to go, and the Social Security COLA could end up being higher or lower, depending on inflation's trajectory in August and September. Analysts have said they are estimating a COLA range from a low of 9.3% to a high of 10%, with 9.6% most likely given the most recent data. The average monthly benefit for the current year stands at about $1,600, but that is typically falling short by about $58 per month for a typical senior. They may be pushing more seniors to rely on the government assistance programs. In 2021, about 37% of seniors who were surveyed by the Senior Citizens League said they received aid from programs for low-income people. Prior to the crisis, about 16% of seniors received needs-based assistance. That suggests that the crisis and the inflation have caused significantly higher numbers of adults living on fixed incomes to turn these programs to supplement their Social Security and Medicare benefits, especially as prices have continued to climb.
At the Rules Committee yesterday, the fact that a half a dozen of the bills contained in this legislation are Republican bills. I want to particularly join you in commending the staff on this and pay special tribute to Jan Wicker, who has been remarkable in building bipartisanship in this legislation. My understanding she's recovering at home. I send her best wishes and prayers for a speedy recovery, but deep gratitude for her bipartisanship in putting this legislation together, which you so eloquently supported in the Rules Committee yesterday. For generations, Americans has offered a beacon of excellence in science, innovation, and engineering. Our research has generated ground-changing discoveries. Our industry has powered unprecedented prosperity. Our technology has altered the course of history, and our workforce has been the envy of the world. I'm so happy that in this legislation, there are up to 100,000 Davis-Bacon jobs that will be created. But in recent years, many other nations have followed our blueprint, investing in R&D and manufacturing and education. Their rise not only threatens America's status as the world leader in innovation, but also the economic security of America's families. That is why, with the landmark legislation that we will pass today, we will put America back on the path to preeminence so that we can compete and win in the 21st century. When I mentioned those 100,000 Davis-Bacon jobs, that means the prevailing wage for our workers, I want to salute Chairman Bobby Scott for his work on that regard. Our CHIPS and Science Act, as it's called, and I'm so happy because a week ago, Mr. Lucas, I thought it was just going to be the CHIPS Act. But fortunately, with your help and the negotiations of our distinguished chair, Eddie Bernice Johnson, we're able to get it be the CHIPS and Science Act. The CHIPS are for now. That's important. Make it in America. Keep us preeminent. The science is about our ongoing preeminence, and we'll talk some more about that.
Because it hits low-income people the hardest. Not only that, but the bill, as I say, will actually increase inflation. Analysis by economists at Penn Wharton, at the University of Pennsylvania, and the Federal Reserve, Moody's Analytics, the CBO, all show that it will not reduce inflation. When you look at things like the tax on not just manufacturing, but other companies that produce oil and gas, here we are fighting with the highest prices we've seen at the pump in years that people pay every time they pull up to fill up their car. And now with increased taxes, that's going to exacerbate the cost of fuel at the pump. It's going to impact the price of groceries at the grocery store at a time when we're not only fighting inflation, we're fighting economic stagnation. Stagflation, something we haven't had in this country since the late 70s and the early 80s. Economists at the Nonprofit Tax Foundation have projected this bill will reduce long-term economic output, reduce average wages, and eliminate 30,000 full-time jobs. Let me repeat that. Economists at the Nonprofit Tax Foundation have projected that this legislation will reduce long-run economic output, reduce average wages, and eliminate 30,000 full-time jobs in this country. Rather than tightening our fiscal belt and reducing spending, Democrats are continuing down the same old path that has led to record high inflation and our economy on the verge of recession. Increasing taxes and more federal spending will not reduce inflation. It will not create jobs. It will not lower gas prices, which are still about 60% higher than they were just a year ago. Instead, we should be empowering our domestic energy producers, restoring our energy independence, reducing our reliance on foreign oil imports, and creating more jobs here at home. Not eliminating 30,000 jobs, creating more jobs. Less spending, less taxation, less regulation gets this economy growing. This bill does just the opposite. Democrats are proposing new